Probably not. Hit that sub button, let's get started. Now, an LLM degree, or a Master of Laws degree, really only makes sense if you're in certain buckets that we're going to talk about in this video. Now, to be clear, to get accepted into an LLM program usually requires you to have a JD, or aka a Juris Doctor, a law degree, first. So typically, you can't even apply to an LLM program without having graduated from law school. Now, of course, an LLM is another year of school, and that means another year of tuition, another year of room and board, another year of foregone income from a potential job that you could be working in. And if you're considering an LLM, I think you should think about whether or not all of that money and that time investment is worth it for you to get the benefits of the LLM. And LLM curriculum tends to be similar to JD curriculum. So LLMs will often take the same courses as JDs with JDs in the same room. It's just that LLMs will focus specifically on one area of law, whether that is corporate or tax or intellectual property. It generally isn't very common for American JDs to want to go get an LLM and to actually do so. LLMs at American law schools are, however, pretty popular for international students and international lawyers. And this is for a lot of reasons. The LLM from an American law school confers credibility, it confers legitimacy, it confers clout and branding. So oftentimes lawyers will graduate from law school in their home nation. They might even practice law for a few years, and then they will come over to the US for 1 year, get the LLM, and then go back to their home country, back into the legal profession, or perhaps lobbying, or international law, or even business or something else. LLMs can be so popular, in fact, that at some schools, like my alma mater, Harvard Law School, most of the LLMs are actually foreign nationals and not American JDs. And this was such a stereotype when I was in law school that one of my JD friends and classmates, who was also a foreign national who had a subtle accent, was often asked by people, "So how are you liking your LLM program?" And she would always have to respond and explain that she is not, in fact, an LLM. Now, an important thing to think about with an LLM is, can you even practice law with this degree? And usually, if all you have is an LLM, the answer is no. Typically, you need a JD, or you need a law degree from another nation as well as the LLM. And even then, this is one of those things that depends state by state whether they will allow you with just an LLM and not a JD to practice law in their state. But let's talk about the benefits. Why would you want to get an LLM? And really, the underlying reasons, I would argue, are twofold. First, it's to become an expert in that academic-focused area of law that you are getting the LLM in. Whether that is healthcare or IP or tax, the reason you want the LLM is so that you become the subject matter expert, and it is more likely that with the LLM, you will get more publications done. You have more knowledge about the field that will help you get into faculty positions, or maybe even become a judge focusing on that type of law. So I often see folks that are very wonky and focused on the law itself as an academic exercise and endeavor. Sometimes they will go get LLMs in areas of law that really excite them. And the other reason is that there are some specific areas of practicing law where having an LLM looks really good and helps a lot for recruiting in that type of specialty. One example of this is international tax, and to some degree, tax in general. If you have an LLM in tax or international tax, it makes it a lot easier for you to recruit to get positions in big law firms or in government where you will be a tax attorney or an international tax planning specialist. Now, that's not to say this is a strict requirement to have the LLM, but it's one of those things that probably depends on the law firm or the employer. And for the record, I have heard that some firms do have a soft requirement of having an LLM to join their international tax planning practice. But if your goal isn't to become an academic, and if your goal doesn't involve a specialized area of law where you have seen and you have spoken to lawyers who have told you that an LLM is more or less required to do it, then I'm not really sure it's worth another year of your time and tens of thousands more of your dollars. But of course, if you're an American and your goal is to get an LLM, then what needs to come before the LLM is the JD. And to get the JD, I recommend you check out the $5 guide that I wrote on getting into law school. Because this guide, which is the price of a cup of coffee, is your one-stop shop to giving you all the tips and tricks and the strategies that I used to first get into NYU law and then eventually to Harvard Law School and Stanford Law School. So if you're asking yourself, how do I optimize my time to make the best application for law school possible? Who should I ask for letters of recommendation? Should I take the LSAT or the GRE? These questions and many more are answered in the guide. So check it out, it's in the caption below. And if you're an LLM, I'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts about this video in the comments. Hit that sub button if you're not subbed already. I appreciate you. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.